Have you ever wondered why some people move through life without any close friends? Not because they're rude or cold or uninterested, but because something about connection feels heavy. Psychology says it's not just social awkwardness, it's often something deeper: emotional scars, nervous system patterns, childhood wounds. Today, we're unpacking the real psychology behind people who have no friends, why they pull away, what they feel but never say, and how loneliness becomes both a survival instinct and a hidden strength. There is a kind of loneliness that doesn't look like loneliness. It's not loud. It doesn't cry out for help. It doesn't wear black or write poems about despair. Instead, it wakes up, brushes its teeth, goes to work, and replies, "I'm just keeping to myself these days." This loneliness hides behind routines, behind politeness, behind "I'm just busy." It doesn't always come from being alone, but from moving through life without anyone who truly knows you. You could have 100 names in your phone and still feel like none of them would notice if you disappeared for a week. It's not the absence of people, it's the absence of intimacy, of reflection, of shared inner worlds. And if you've ever felt this, you're not broken and you're not alone. Because some people move through life like ghosts in their own story, not because they want to, but because something deeper shaped them that way. It's easy to assume that people without friends are simply antisocial, or strange, or withdrawn. But often, it's the opposite. They feel everything. They notice shifts in tone the moment someone becomes disinterested, the subtext behind every laugh. They've simply been hurt too often in places where they once reached out. And now they move through the world quietly, guarding the softest parts of themselves. Most people who live without close friends didn't choose it. They adapted to it. At some point, they tried. Maybe as kids, they tried to join the group. Maybe as teens, they shared too much with the wrong person. Maybe as adults, they opened their heart and were left hanging, again and again, ignored, mocked, misunderstood, until the brain learned a quiet rule: connection equals pain. It's not conscious, but it sticks. A kind of silent programming that says, "Don't bother, it won't end well." Psychologists call this learned social helplessness. When you've reached out so many times and been met with rejection or indifference, your brain begins to associate connection with danger. So even when kind people appear later, people who might actually stay, your guard remains up. You've learned to protect yourself by not trying at all. And here's what makes it worse: loneliness doesn't just change your heart, it changes your brain. Studies show that chronic isolation heightens the brain's threat response. People become hyper aware of tone, delays in responses, lack of emojis, a period at the end of a sentence. They're not overreacting. Their nervous system is trying to protect them. They start scanning every interaction for signs of rejection, even where none exists. A text that takes an hour to answer feels like abandonment. A friend canceling plans becomes confirmation that they never really cared. This creates a painful loop. You become cautious. People sense that caution as distance. They assume you're uninterested or cold, and they pull back, reinforcing the very loneliness you're trying to escape. It's not your fault. It's just the way the human mind tries to protect itself from pain it's already endured too many times. Sometimes this pattern begins early. If you grew up in a home where love felt conditional, where warmth came and went without reason, you learn not to rely on anyone. And that childhood pattern echoes in adulthood. You crave connection, but intimacy feels unpredictable, unsafe. So you keep your walls up, even if all you want is for someone to see over them. Attachment theory tells us that when safety is absent in our earliest bonds, we carry that uncertainty into every relationship that follows. We want to be close, but closeness feels like standing on unstable ground. And for some people, it's not just about past wounds, it's about how they're wired. Some people just feel more. They absorb other people's moods like sponges. They replay conversations long after they end. For them, socializing isn't casual, it's work, emotional labor. It drains, overwhelms, exhausts. After an hour of small talk, they need 3 days alone just to recover. And when every interaction requires that much energy, eventually you start to withdraw. Not because you don't like people, but because being around them costs more than you can afford to give. There's something else that happens too, something quieter but just as painful. Without close friends, without safe mirrors, you start to lose your shape. You wonder, am I likable? Am I boring? Am I too much? And the less reflection you get from others, the harder it becomes to see yourself clearly. Psychologists call this identity distortion. We don't just become ourselves in isolation, we become ourselves in reflection. And when that reflection is missing, you can start to feel unreal, like you're living in a fog where your existence doesn't echo anywhere. So, friendlessness isn't a decision, it's a scar left behind by 1,000 tiny cuts no one ever noticed. From the outside, they look fine. They go to work, they buy groceries, they scroll, they laugh at the right moments, but inside they live in two worlds. The external one, all motion, obligations, small talk, and the internal one, echoing, looping, narrating thoughts that never get shared. There's an ache that comes not from being alone, but from having no one to tell the small things to. No one to send the made me think of you photo. No one to say, guess what happened today? So they keep it in. They stop checking their phone. They stop expecting replies. They stop reaching out, not out of pride, but out of protection. They say, I like being alone. And sometimes they mean it. But often it's a shield because trying takes hope, and hope is painful when it's been betrayed too many times. This kind of life creates emotional congestion. Memories pile up unshared, wounds go unspoken. Even joy becomes muted, like music playing through a wall you can't quite reach. And the paradox, the people who feel this loneliness most are often the ones who long for connection the deepest, but who've been hurt just enough to fear it. So they live in a world of windows, not doors, visible but untouchable. Yet within all this, something quietly begins to form, because solitude, when endured long enough, sharpens you. It teaches self reflection, it deepens emotional awareness, it makes you a student of silence and of the human soul. People without friends often become keen observers of others. They study expressions, notice energy shifts, feel sincerity. Because they've spent so long outside the group, they see the group more clearly than those inside it. They don't want 10 surface level friendships. They want one soul level bond. Someone who sits in the silence with them without trying to fix it. They've learned to hold themselves through hard days, to self soothe, to carry sorrow without spilling it. That isn't weakness, that's resilience. And even after years of disconnection, they never fully stop hoping. Beneath the calm exterior, something waits. For one moment of real resonance, for someone to say, you too? I thought I was the only one? Because the ones who have felt invisible often become the best at seeing others. So, to anyone living this story now, this quiet, unspeakable loneliness, hear this. You are not broken. You've simply survived without one of the most essential nutrients of the human spirit, connection. But healing doesn't start with confidence. It starts with softness, with replying to the message you almost ignored, with saying yes when someone invites you out, even if your body says no out of habit, with letting someone see the real texture of your world a little by little. Friendship doesn't grow from perfection, it grows from presence, from being willing to show up, even unsure, even afraid. You don't need a crowd. You don't need to be charming or witty or impressive. You just need one person who looks at your inner world and says, I get it, I feel that too. And when that happens, when you are truly seen, something ancient and warm and healing awakens in you. Because loneliness isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning of your becoming. And when connection finds you, not the shallow kind, but the soul kind, you'll understand why it had to take this long. Until then, walk gently, talk kindly to yourself, and don't dim your depth to be more palatable. The people meant for you will find you by the light of it. Do you ever feel unseen, even when you're surrounded by people? Do you sometimes retreat, not because you want to, but because trying feels too heavy? Do you ever wonder what it would feel like to be truly understood? If this story resonated, remember to like the video, subscribe, press the bell icon, and share it with someone who might need it. Our other stories should be appearing on your screen now. Watch them next, and I'll see you tomorrow at the same time with a brand new video.